The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched across what seemed like an endless expanse of polished crystal floors. Admiral Chen Wei stood at the center platform, her dress uniform crisp and perfect, while holographic displays flickered around her showing Earth's military capabilities. She had practiced this presentation for months. Everything had to be perfect. Humanity's future in the galaxy depended on it. Above her, seated in towering observation decks, representatives from 47 alien species watched with varying degrees of interest. The insectoid Vextar clicked their mandibles in what their translators rendered as quiet conversation. The Luminari, beings of living crystal and light, pulsed with colors that shifted through the spectrum. The massive depth lords filled their water-filled chambers with low rumbling sounds that vibrated through the floor. Chen pressed the control in her hand. The display shifted to show Earth's most advanced main battle tank, the M1A7 Devastator. "This is our primary ground assault vehicle," she explained, her voice steady and confident. "Capable of traversing any terrain, equipped with a 140mm cannon, composite armor, and advanced targeting systems." A sound rippled through the chamber. It took Chen a moment to recognize it. Laughter. Commander Takesh of the Vextar military spoke first, his translator giving his words a tinny, artificial quality. "Forgive me, Admiral. Did you say this vehicle moves on, treads, like an industrial mining machine?" "That is correct," Chen replied, feeling the first prickle of unease on the back of her neck. "Fascinating," Takesh continued, and now his tone was unmistakably amused. He gestured with one of his forearms, and his own hologram appeared beside Chen's tank. It showed a sleek angular vehicle that seemed to float above the ground, crackling with purple energy. "This is our standard hover tank. It moves through gravitic manipulation at speeds exceeding 400 kilometers per hour. It phases through solid matter when shields are engaged, and it requires no physical contact with terrain whatsoever." More laughter rippled through the chamber. Chen felt her jaw tighten, but she maintained her composure. "Our tanks are highly reliable and can operate in any environment." "Operate in any environment," a luminary named Solasmir interrupted, their crystalline voice like wind chimes. "Admiral, our combat constructs are created through pure thought. They require no fuel, no maintenance, and adapt their form to any situation instantly. They are extensions of our warriors' minds." A depth lord's deep voice boomed through the chamber. "Our bioweapons are grown from living tissue. They heal themselves. They evolve during combat, and yet you present us with metal boxes on treads?" Chen's presentation continued, but the damage was done. Every weapon system she showed, her fighters, her artillery, her naval vessels, was met with barely concealed amusement. The aliens politely listened, but she could see the truth in their glowing eyes, their shifting colors, their chittering mandibles. To them, humanity's military was a joke, a curiosity, something that belonged in a museum, not on a battlefield. When the presentation ended, the Council's military committee deliberated for less than 10 minutes. Chen stood alone on the platform, feeling smaller with each passing second. Finally, the head of the committee, a towering Vextar named High Commander Zixral, delivered their verdict. "The Galactic Council appreciates Earth's enthusiasm and spirit," Zixral said, his words dripping with condescension. "However, we must respectfully inform you that your military capabilities do not meet the standards required for full membership in the Unified Defense Coalition. We are prepared to offer you provisional associate status, which will allow Earth to participate in Council affairs in a limited capacity." "What does that mean exactly?" Chen asked, though she already knew. She had seen other species receive the same classification. "It means you may contribute economically and culturally to the Council," Zixral explained. "But in matters of defense and military operations, you will be protected by more capable forces." Protected. The word tasted like ash in Chen's mouth. The meeting adjourned, and as the alien delegates filed out, she heard their continued laughter, saw the way they gestured at her presentation holograms still floating in the air. Within hours, she knew this would spread across the galactic network. Earth's tanks, wheels, and treads would become a meme, a punchline to jokes told in bars on 1,000 worlds. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. Chen spent most of it alone in her quarters, reviewing the presentation, wondering what she could have done differently. But deep down, she knew the truth. It wasn't about how she presented the information. The aliens simply could not see past their own technological superiority. To them, anything less advanced was worthless. When she finally returned to Earth, Chen found herself drawn to the Bovington Tank Museum in England. She had visited it as a young officer, decades ago, and somehow felt the need to return. The museum's curator recognized her from the news feeds and gave her a private tour after hours. She stood in front of a Mark IV tank from World War I, its riveted steel hull covered in patches and repairs. This machine was more than 350 years old. It had crossed trenches, broken through barbed wire, and changed the face of warfare forever. Its top speed had been 4 miles per hour. Its armor could barely stop rifle bullets. And yet it had been revolutionary, unstoppable in its time. They laughed at us, Chen said quietly, not sure if she was talking to the curator herself or the ghost of some long-dead tank commander. They always do, the curator replied, an elderly man with kind eyes. Until they don't. Chen reached out and touched the cold steel of the tank's hull. The metal was real, solid, honest. No exotic materials, no gravity manipulation, no psychic constructs. Just steel and determination. She thought about the aliens and their perfect advanced weapons. She thought about humanity's long history of being underestimated. And for the first time since the Council's rejection, she smiled. "Admiral?" the curator asked. "Are you all right?" "Yes," Chen said, her fingers still pressed against the ancient tank. "I think I am. Tell me, does this museum have a gift shop?" "Of course, why?" "I need to send some gifts to the Galactic Council." "Tank models, I think. With a note that says wheels and treads." The curator laughed, understanding immediately. "I'll have them gift-wrapped." Outside the museum, night had fallen over England. Stars filled the sky, and somewhere up there, aliens were still laughing at humanity's primitive military. Let them laugh, Chen thought. History had a way of humbling the arrogant, and humanity had always been very good at proving doubters wrong. She just hoped they would get the chance to do so before it was too late. The first warning came from a deep space monitoring station on the edge of Council space. The operator, a young luminary technician, had been half asleep when the sensors screamed to life. At first she thought it was a malfunction. Nothing could be that large. Nothing biological could move that fast through the void of space. But the readings were correct. The Krethok swarm had returned. Within hours, every major government in the galaxy received the same emergency broadcast. The message was simple and terrifying. Evacuate all border colonies. Prepare all military forces. Pray to whatever gods your species believed in, because the swarm was coming, and this time it was different. Admiral Chen was in her office on Earth when the call came through. She recognized the Vextar officer on the screen immediately. Commander Takesh, the same one who had laughed at her tanks 6 months ago. He looked different now. His mandibles trembled. His compound eyes darted nervously. The arrogance was gone. "Admiral Chen," he said without preamble, "the swarm has breached Council space. We are requesting immediate military assistance from all associate members." Chen leaned forward. "Tell me what happened." Takesh's image flickered as explosions lit up the space behind him. "They evolved. Our weapons. They don't work anymore. The swarm adapts within minutes. Our hover tanks, they learn to disrupt the gravitic generators. Our plasma weapons, the swarm's bioships absorb the energy and use it to grow. The luminary's psychic constructs, the hive mind jams their thoughts. Everything we throw at them makes them stronger. How bad is it?" Chen asked. "We have lost 17 worlds in 4 days, Takesh said, and his voice cracked. "The Depth Lord's entire Third Fleet was destroyed. Their bioweapons were turned against them. The swarm absorbed them and created new variants. We are losing, Admiral. Badly." Chen watched as another explosion rocked the command ship Takesh was calling from. She felt no satisfaction at seeing the proud Vextar humbled. Only a cold, professional calculation of what this meant. "What do you need from Earth?" "Anything you can send. We know your military is limited, but we need every ship, every weapon, every soldier who can fight." "I'll speak with our Defense Council," Chen said. "We'll send what we can. Quickly, please," Takesh said. "We do not have much time." The screen went dark. Chen sat alone in her office for a long moment, thinking. Then she picked up her communicator and began making calls. 72 hours later, a fleet departed from Earth. But it was not the sleek, modern fleet the Council expected. Transport ships, hundreds of them, filled with cargo that made the Council's liaison officers stare in confusion. Tanks, artillery, mechanized infantry vehicles. Most of them were over 50 years old, pulled from reserve stockpiles and mothballed armories. Some were even older, lovingly maintained museum pieces pressed back into service. Solismir, the luminary who had been assigned as Earth's liaison, contacted Chen directly. "Admiral, I appreciate your willingness to help, but I must speak plainly. These weapons will not be effective against the swarm. They are too primitive. The swarm will adapt to them in moments." "Maybe," Chen said. "Maybe not. We're coming anyway. But, Solismir, has the swarm ever fought humans before?" The luminary paused. "No. Earth was not yet a council member during previous swarm conflicts." "Then they don't know what we can do," Chen said. "And neither do you." The human fleet arrived at the border sectors 3 weeks later. By then, the situation had deteriorated even further. The council had lost 32 worlds. Their fleets were in full retreat. The swarm controlled a sphere of space 200 light-years across and growing every day. Chen's forces were directed to Terthos 4, a resource-rich planet the council had abandoned after 3 failed liberation attempts. The swarm had fortified it heavily, turning it into a staging ground for attacks deeper into council space. It was considered a lost cause. "High Command does not expect you to retake the planet," Solismir explained over the comm. Their crystalline voice carried an emotion Chen had never heard from the luminary before. "Shame. We simply hope you can delay the swarm forces. They are long enough for us to reinforce the inner systems." "Understood," Chen said. "We'll do what we can." The human fleet did not approach from orbit as the Council's forces had done. Instead, they used old atmospheric entry craft, the kind that had landed humanity's first colonies on Mars and Titan centuries ago. They were crude, inelegant things that rattled and screamed as they plunged through Terthoswere's atmosphere, but they worked. The swarm watched the landing craft descend with what passed for curiosity in a hive mind. These vessels were different from the Council's ships, simpler. The swarm analyzed them, cataloged them, and dismissed them as non-threats. The beings inside used chemical propulsion and kinetic weapons. Primitive, easy prey. The first human tanks rolled out of their landing craft into a nightmare landscape. Terthos R4 had been beautiful once, a world of purple forests and crystal rivers. Now it was a biomechanical hell, covered in swarm structures that pulsed with organic life. Bioships the size of buildings hunched in valleys. Warrior forms skittered across the terrain on too many legs. The swarm attacked immediately. Acid spitters emerged from their nests, firing corrosive streams that could melt through the Council's advanced armor in seconds. The humans responded with something the swarm had never encountered before: machine gun fire. Thousands of rounds per minute, simple lead and copper-jacketed bullets tore through the acid spitters like paper. The creatures died screaming, their bodies unable to adapt fast enough to pure kinetic trauma. The swarm's warrior forms charged next, massive creatures with blade arms that could cut through energy shields. They crashed into the human lines expecting easy victory. Instead, they met tank cannons firing high-explosive rounds at point-blank range. Depleted uranium penetrators, white phosphorus shells, weapons that were 500 years old and still devastatingly effective. Colonel James Morrison commanded the 2nd Armored Division from his tank, call sign Old Iron. He had been a history professor before rejoining the military for this mission. Now he watched through his periscope as human doctrine, real, old-fashioned, earth-born military doctrine, tore through the swarm like a chainsaw through wet cardboard. "All units, maintain formation," he ordered over the radio. "Infantry, clear those nests. Artillery, I want fire on grid coordinates Delta 7. Armor, advance 50 meters and hold." The swarm tried to adapt. Bioforms emerged with thicker hides attempting to resist the bullets. Human soldiers switched to armor-piercing rounds. The swarm grew energy-absorbing carapaces. Humans used flamethrowers, another ancient weapon that relied on nothing but chemistry and pressure. The swarm tried to overwhelm them with numbers. Humans called in artillery strikes that carpeted entire square kilometers with explosions. For the first time in recorded history, the Kruthok's swarm encountered an enemy it could not adapt to. Because humanity's weapons did not rely on exotic physics or advanced technology. They relied on the same principles that had won wars for thousands of years. Hit the enemy hard, hit them fast, and don't stop hitting them until they're dead. By the end of the first week, human forces had established a perimeter. By the end of the second week, They had pushed the swarm back to its primary hive structures, and by the end of the third week, Terthos IV was liberated. The Council's observers watched in stunned silence as human soldiers raised Earth's flag over the last destroyed hive. Solasmir tried to find words to explain what they had witnessed, but there were none. The luminary simply sent a message to the Council. The humans have won. We do not understand how, but they have won. The victory on Terthos IV sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. Within days, observers from every major military power descended on the planet, demanding to understand what had happened. They walked through the battlefield in environmental suits, studying the destroyed swarm bioforms with instruments and sensors, trying to make sense of the impossible. Commander Takesh stood beside Colonel Morrison in what had once been the swarm's central hive. The massive organic structure was now a burned-out shell, still smoldering from the white phosphorus rounds that had finally killed it. Takesh's mandibles clicked thoughtfully as he examined the wreckage. "I do not understand," the Vextar officer said finally. "Our weapons are more powerful. Our technology is more advanced. Yet you succeeded where we failed 3 times. How?" Morrison kicked a piece of debris with his boot. He was tired, covered in dust and dried sweat, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "You want the short answer or the long answer?" "Both, if you please. Short answer? Your weapons were too good. Long answer?" Morrison gestured across the battlefield. "Come on. I'll show you." They walked through the human encampment, past tanks being refueled and rearmed, past soldiers eating rations from packets, past medics treating wounded who would be back in action within hours. Takesh noticed something odd about the vehicles. Many of them were damaged. Armor plates showed clear signs of acid burns, hastily welded patches, even crude repairs made with local materials. "This tank," Morrison said, patting the side of a battered M1A7, "got hit by swarm acid spitters on day 2, melted through the reactive armor. You know what we did? Withdrew it for repairs? Hell no. Crew got out, welded some steel plates over the damaged sections using a portable welder, and got back in. Tank was fighting again within 4 hours. Morrison smiled. Your hover tanks, when their gravitic generators get damaged, they're out of the fight. They need specialized facilities to repair. But our tanks? They're just metal and engines. Anything breaks, we fix it with whatever we have on hand." Takesh processed this information. "But surely the swarm adapted to your weapons." "They always do." "They tried," Morrison admitted. "They grew thicker hides against bullets. So we used bigger bullets. They developed energy-absorbing carapaces. So we stopped using energy weapons and stuck with explosives. They tried to overwhelm us with numbers. So we called in artillery and turned those numbers into fertilizer." "Artillery," Takesh repeated. "Indirect fire weapons. We abandoned those centuries ago in favor of precision plasma strikes." "Yeah, well, precision isn't always what you need," Morrison said. "Sometimes you need to put 100 tons of high explosives on a grid square and make everything there stop existing. Can't adapt to that." They reached Morrison's command tank. The colonel climbed up and opened a compartment, pulling out a weapon that made Takesh's translator emit a confused chirp. It was a rifle, clearly ancient, with a curved magazine and wood furniture. "This is an AK-47, Morrison explained. "Designed in 1947, over 800 years old. You know why we still use them?" Takesh examined the weapon with multiple eyes. "It appears quite primitive." "Exactly. Drop it in mud, it still fires. Leave it in a desert for a year, it still fires. Run it over with a tank, pick it up, and it still fires. It's not the most accurate rifle ever made. It's not the most powerful. But it works. Always. That's worth more than any amount of advanced technology." Over the next few days, more council observers arrived. The Luminari sent their best military analysts. The Depth Lords dispatched their war leaders. They all wanted to understand the human victory. Morrison and Admiral Chen gave them access to everything: tactical recordings, after-action reports, even live demonstrations of human weapons and tactics. The aliens watched in fascination as human soldiers demonstrated combined arms warfare. Tanks advanced while infantry cleared buildings. Artillery softened targets before ground forces moved in. Aircraft provided close air support using missiles and cannons that the swarm could not adapt to, because they were simply too fast and too numerous. But the real revelation came during a tactical briefing. A Luminari strategist named Velcor asked the question that had been puzzling everyone. "Your weapons are effective, yes, but many of them are very old designs. Why not update them? Why not improve them? Admiral Chen answered this time. She displayed a hologram showing the evolution of human main battle tanks, from World War I to the present day. This is a Mark IV tank from 1917. 4 miles per hour, crew of 8, armor that could barely stop rifle bullets. This is an M1 Abrams from 1980. 40 miles per hour, crew of 4, composite armor that could stop most anti-tank weapons. This is our current M1A7. 60 miles per hour, crew of 3, armor that can withstand plasma fire. So you did improve them, Velcor said. We made them better at doing the same job, Chen clarified. But the basic concept never changed. Tracks for mobility, armor for protection, a big gun for killing the enemy. We didn't try to reinvent the wheel because the wheel already worked. We just made better wheels. But why not develop completely new systems? Another observer asked. Hover technology, energy weapons, gravitic propulsion? We did, Chen said. We have all of those things. But we kept the old systems too, because sometimes simple is better than complicated. Sometimes reliable is better than advanced. And sometimes you need a weapon that will work no matter what, even if it is 800 years old. The concept was alien to most of the observers. Their civilizations had always pursued advancement, always reaching for the next technological leap. The idea of intentionally maintaining older technology seemed backwards to them. But as they studied the human victory more closely, they began to understand. The swarm adapted by learning from its enemies. It analyzed their technology and evolved countermeasures. But human technology was so simple, so brutally straightforward that there was nothing to analyze. A bullet was a piece of metal fired by an explosion. You could not adapt to that any more than you could adapt to gravity or falling rocks. Colonel Morrison put it even more simply during a dinner with the council observers. The enemy can evolve all they want, he said, raising a glass of whiskey. They can grow thicker armor, faster reflexes, better sensors, but they can't evolve past being hit by a 120 millimeters depleted uranium round, traveling at 1,300 meters per second. Physics is physics, and physics doesn't care how advanced you are. Commander Takesh raised his own glass in response, though his species did not actually drink alcohol. I believe I'm beginning to understand. We thought your weapons were primitive because they were old. We did not realize that they were old because they worked. Now you're getting it, Morrison said with a grin. By the end of the month, the Council's attitude toward humanity had changed completely. The mockery was gone, replaced by respect and genuine curiosity. Military officers from across the galaxy requested to train with human forces. The Vextar began manufacturing their own legacy ground vehicles, reverse engineering human tank designs. The Luminari started studying human military history, fascinated by thousands of years of warfare evolution. But the war was not over. The swarm still controlled vast regions of space. HFY was one victory among many defeats, and intelligence reports suggested that the swarm was growing, learning, preparing for something bigger. Admiral Chen stood alone in her quarters one night, looking at a holographic star map. Red markers showed swarm-controlled space. Blue showed the Council. The red was spreading, slowly but inevitably. A message came through from Earth's Defense Council. They wanted to know if she needed reinforcements, more supplies, more weapons. Chen thought about the Mark IV tank in the Bovington Museum. She thought about 800 years of human warfare. She thought about the swarm and its endless adaptation. And she thought about what humanity did best. She typed her response. Send everything we have. Every tank, every gun, every soldier willing to fight. This is what we were made for. The message sent, she returned to studying the star map. Somewhere out in the darkness, the swarm was watching, learning, preparing. Let it come, Chen thought. Let it see what humanity Unbound could do. The Galactic Military Academy had stood for 3,000 years on the crystal moon of Vextar Prime. Its gleaming spires reached toward the stars, monuments to advanced warfare and technological superiority. Generations of officers from every council species had walked its halls, learning the arts of plasma warfare, gravitic manipulation, and psychic combat. Now, for the first time in its history, the Academy hosted human instructors. Admiral Chen walked through the main lecture hall, her boots clicking on the polished floor. The amphitheater could hold 5,000 students. Today it was packed beyond capacity, with observers standing in the aisles and watching from overflow rooms through holographic projections. Every major military power in the council had sent representatives. Chen approached the podium and the room fell silent. She placed her hands on the smooth surface and looked out at the sea of alien faces, compound eyes, crystalline forms, aquatic beings in mobile water tanks, all of them waiting to hear humanity's secrets. 3 months ago, she began, your forces laughed at our weapons. You called them primitive, museum pieces. Today, you have asked us to teach you how to fight. That is not an easy thing to do. Not because we want to keep secrets, but because what we will show you goes against everything your civilizations have believed for centuries. Chen activated the holographic display. Images filled the air above the amphitheater. Tanks, artillery, rifles, all the weapons the council had once mocked. You want to know why we won on Turthos 4? You want to understand how primitive weapons defeated an enemy that adapts to advanced technology? The answer is simple. We think about warfare differently than you do. A Vextar officer raised one of his forearms. Admiral, with respect, we have studied your tactics. We understand combined arms doctrine. We have analyzed your use of artillery and armor. But these are just techniques. Surely there is something deeper. There is, Chen agreed, and it is called strategic depth. The concept that warfare is not about having the best weapon, but about having weapons that work when everything else fails. She changed the display, showing a graph with multiple lines representing different technologies over time. Your civilizations pursue advancement. You develop new weapons, new systems, always reaching for the cutting edge. When something better comes along, you abandon the old. This makes sense, yes? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the amphitheater. But here's what happens when you do that, Chen continued. The graph shifted, showing how the swarm had countered council weapons. The swarm adapts to your cutting-edge technology, and when your best weapons fail, you have nothing to fall back on. You abandoned your backup systems centuries ago because they were not optimal. Colonel Morrison stepped up beside Chen. He was wearing his combat fatigues, still dusty from the training exercises he had been running with Vextar troops. Let me put it another way, he said. How many of you have ever heard of the AK-47 rifle? A few hands went up, mostly from officers who had studied human history as a curiosity. The AK-47 was designed 800 years ago, Morrison continued. It is not the most accurate rifle ever made. It is not the most powerful. It is not the lightest or the fastest. But I can drop it in mud, sand, water, or snow, and it will still fire. I can run it over with a tank, pick it up, brush it off, and it will still fire. I can give it to someone who has never seen a gun before, and they can figure out how to use it in 5 minutes. He pulled out his own AK-47, the same one he had shown Commander Takesh on Turthos IV. This specific rifle is 60 years old. I inherited it from my grandfather. It has been in 3 wars, survived 2 explosions, and been submerged in a river for a week, and it still works perfectly. That is strategic depth. A luminary in the front row, Velcor from the earlier briefings, raised a crystalline appendage. But surely it would be better to have a more advanced weapon that is also reliable. Would it? Morrison challenged. Your energy rifles are more powerful than any ballistic weapon we have. But they require power cells that take hours to recharge. They have complex circuitry that fails in extreme temperatures. They need regular maintenance by trained technicians. Our rifles need bullets and someone to pull the trigger. Which is more reliable? The luminary had no answer. Chen took over again. Let me show you something else. The display changed to show the Boeing B-52 Stratofortress, a massive aircraft with 8 engines. This bomber was designed in 1952. It entered service in 1955. We are now in the year 2287. Take a guess how many we still have in active service. None, surely, Adept Lord rumbled. No machine lasts that long. Wrong, we have 312 in active service. The youngest one was built in 1962. That means our newest strategic bombers are 325 years old. The amphitheater erupted in surprised chatter. Chen let it continue for a moment before raising her hand for silence. Why do we still use them? Because they do one job extremely well. They carry enormous payloads over long distances and drop bombs on targets. We have developed dozens of newer, more advanced bombers over the centuries. Some were faster. Some were stealthier. Some had better technology. But none of them could carry as much, fly as far, or do it as cheaply as the B-52. So we kept them. This is the heart of Terran doctrine, Morrison added. Do not pursue perfection. Pursue sufficiency. Make weapons that are good enough to do their job, and so simple that they will keep doing that job for centuries. Over the following weeks, human instructors spread throughout the Council's military academies and training facilities. They taught principles that seemed almost heretical to species that had spent millennia pursuing technological advancement. Redundancy over optimization. Every system should have a backup. Every backup should have a backup. It was better to have 3 simple weapons that all worked than one perfect weapon that might fail. Simplicity over sophistication. The more complex a system, the more ways it could break. A weapon with 10 moving parts was better than a weapon with 1,000, even if the 1,000-part weapon was theoretically more powerful. Reliability over performance. A weapon that worked 99 times out of 100 was better than a weapon that worked 100 times out of 100, but only under perfect conditions. Sustainability over supremacy. It did not matter if you had the best weapon in the galaxy if you could only build 10 of them. Mass production, easy maintenance, and long operational life were more valuable than cutting-edge performance. The Council's military officers struggled with these concepts. They had been trained to always seek improvement, always push boundaries. The idea of intentionally accepting good enough felt wrong to them, but as they trained with human forces, they began to see the wisdom. The luminary discovered that simplifying their psychic constructs made them more stable and less vulnerable to interference. The Vextar found that their new legacy tanks, based on human designs, required far less maintenance than their hover tanks and could operate in environments where gravitic systems failed. Even the proud depth lords admitted that sometimes a simple torpedo was more effective than their self-healing biomines, because the torpedo always exploded when it was supposed to, and did not try to adapt to changing conditions. Commander Takesh became one of the most enthusiastic converts to Terran doctrine. He spent weeks training with human forces, learning not just tactics but philosophy. One evening, he sat with Colonel Morrison in the mess hall, trying human coffee for the first time and immediately regretting it. "I begin to understand why we lost to the swarm," Takesh said, his mandibles clicking in what Morrison had learned to recognize as thoughtful consideration. "We became so advanced that we forgot how to be simple. We built weapons that were marvels of engineering but could not survive actual warfare." "That about sums it up," Morrison agreed. "But the swarm is still out there," Takesh continued, "and intelligence reports suggest they are massing for a major offensive. All of this training, all of these new doctrines, will it be enough?" Morrison looked at his coffee, then at the Vextar officer. "Honestly, I don't know. The swarm is adapting too. They are learning from every encounter. But here is what I do know. When they come at us with everything they have, we will meet them with everything we have, and we have a lot more than they think." "What do you mean?" Morrison smiled. "You will see. When the time comes, you will see what humanity really is. Not just our weapons or our tactics, something deeper, something that cannot be taught in an academy." "And what is that?" "Stubbornness," Morrison said simply. "We do not know how to quit." The warning came at 0347 hours, Earth Standard Time. Every detection grid from the outer rim to the inner colonies lit up simultaneously. The swarm was coming, and it was not heading for Council space. It was heading for Earth. Admiral Chen was awoken by emergency alerts blaring through her quarters. She was dressed and in the command center within 3 minutes, her mind already calculating vectors and deployment patterns. The holographic display showed a nightmare made real. 10 million bioships, maybe more, emerging from dark space in a coordinated wave aimed directly at humanity's homeworld. "Analysis," she snapped. "The swarm has bypassed all Council defensive lines," her tactical officer reported. A young woman named Lieutenant Zhao who looked terrified but kept her voice steady. "They are using some kind of dark space tunneling we have never seen before. Estimated time to Earth orbit is 36 hours. Fleet status: all human forces are scrambling. Council forces are requesting permission to assist." Chen felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. This was it. The swarm had analyzed humanity, studied their tactics on Turthos IV, and made a strategic calculation. Break the humans, and the Council's newfound resilience would crumble with them. It was actually quite logical. "Permission granted to all Council forces," she said. "All hands to battle stations. And send a priority message to Luna Base. Authorization Chen Alpha 7. They will know what it means. Across the galaxy, fleets turned toward Earth. The Vextar sent 3 battle groups. The Luminari formed a massive psychic construct army. The Depth Lords deployed their entire military. Every species that humanity had helped train, every officer who had learned Terran doctrine, every soldier who had served alongside human forces, they all came, not out of obligation, not because the Council ordered it, but because in the past year they had learned what humans were, and they wanted to stand beside them when the end came. The swarm arrived precisely on schedule. 10 million bioships emerged from dark space like a tide of organic nightmares, blotting out the stars. They were larger than before, more diverse, showing adaptations and evolutions from every encounter with Council forces. The hive mind had learned from its defeats and grown stronger. The combined fleet met them at the edge of Earth's solar system. Council ships fought alongside human vessels in a massive engagement that stretched across millions of kilometers. Plasma fire lit the void. Kinetic weapons tore through bioarmor. Psychic blasts shattered hive nodes. For 6 hours they held the line. Then the swarm revealed its final adaptation. Biopulses rippled through space. Electromagnetic bursts that drained power from any system they touched. Council ships went dark one by one, their advanced systems overloaded and disabled. The Luminaries' constructs flickered and died. The Vextar hover tanks aboard planetary defense platforms shut down. Within 30 minutes, the Council fleet was crippled. The swarm surged forward toward Earth, victory within its grasp. The hive mind pulsed with something that might have been satisfaction. The humans were broken. The galaxy would be consumed. Then Admiral Chen gave an order that would echo through history. Release the reserves. On Earth's surface, ancient silos opened. From Luna base, concealed hangars that had been sealed for centuries cracked open. From Mars, from the asteroid belt, from a dozen hidden locations throughout the solar system they came. Chemical rockets, hundreds of them, thousands. Ships that predated humanity's first contact with alien life, pulled from mothballs and refitted for one last mission. Vessels from the 21st century, the 22nd, the 23rd. A parade of human history launched into the void. The swarm sensors analyzed these new contacts and dismissed them. More primitive weapons, more simple technology. The biopulse had already proven effective against advanced systems. These relics would be no different. But chemical rockets did not need power systems to drain. They ran on fuel and oxidizer, controlled by mechanical systems that had been built before computers existed. The biopulse washed over them harmlessly, and behind the rockets came something the swarm could never have anticipated. The deterrent fleet. For 200 years, Earth's governments had maintained a secret insurance policy. Warships from every era, preserved in the airless vacuum of space, kept in perfect condition, just in case. The ships the Council had thought were museum pieces. The vessels that had been retired but never destroyed. They poured out of Luna's hidden docks like ghosts from the past. Ancient cruisers and destroyers, their hulls patched and upgraded but still fundamentally the same designs that had fought in Earth's first space conflicts. Missile boats with payloads that predated fusion technology. Carriers launching fighters with simple jet engines instead of gravitic drives. Commander Takesh, aboard his damaged flagship, watched in disbelief as a vessel that looked like it belonged in a museum docked with his ship. Human Marines poured across carrying welding equipment and spare parts. Within 20 minutes, they had his ship's main weapons operational again. How? Takesh demanded. Your technology cannot interface with ours. The Marine sergeant, a grizzled man named Patterson, shrugged. Does not need to interface. Your weapon needs power, we run cables. Your sensor is broken, we bring our own. Simple. But this is not efficient. Efficient is dead in space, Patterson interrupted. Working is all that matters. The battle shifted. Swarm bioships found themselves fighting an enemy that should not exist, using tactics that should not work. Human vessels rammed bioships, their crews evacuating an escape pod seconds before impact. Warheads that were literally centuries old detonated in precise patterns, creating kill zones the swarm could not adapt to because there was nothing to adapt to, just explosions and kinetic force. General Morrison led the ground assault on the swarm's command node, which had landed on Luna's surface. His forces used weapons that made the Council observers weep with frustration. Bunker buster bombs from World War III, napalm from the Vietnam War. artillery that could have been used at Verdun. The swarm tried to adapt, tried to evolve defenses against these ancient weapons. But evolution took time. And humanity did not give it time. Morrison's famous transmission went out across every channel as his forces breached the hive. You can evolve all you want, but you cannot evolve past being hit by 100,000 tons of high explosives delivered by bombers that my great-great-grandfather helped design. Welcome to Earth. The swarm's hive mind, for the first time in its existence, experienced something close to confusion. How could it fight an enemy that used weapons from their own prehistory as effectively as modern ones? How could it adapt to an opponent that refused to be predictable? The answer was simple. It could not. When the command node fell, the swarm broke, not just tactically but psychologically. The hive mind had encountered an enemy it could not understand, could not adapt to, could not defeat through evolution. For a species that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia, this was unthinkable. The remaining bioships retreated into dark space. Intelligence suggested they would not return, at least not for a generation. The swarm needed time to process what had happened, to understand this anomaly called humanity. The victory celebrations lasted for weeks across Council space. But on Earth, in Admiral Chen's office, the mood was more subdued. She stood with Colonel Morrison, now General Morrison, and Commander Takesh looking at casualty reports. 30,000 human dead, twice that many wounded. Entire ships destroyed, entire battalions lost. We won, Takesh said quietly. But the cost was severe. It always is, Chen replied. That is war. Not the clean technological version you learned in academies. Real war. Brutal and bloody and terrible. Is this what humanity is? The Vextar asked. This willingness to sacrifice, to fight with anything available, to never surrender? Part of it, Morrison said. We also make terrible jokes at inappropriate times, drink too much coffee, and cry at sad movies. But yeah, when pushed, we fight. With everything we have. Because that is what you do for home. The Galactic Council formally recognized Earth as a core military member 3 days later. More importantly, they established the Terran War College, where every council officer would spend a mandatory year learning human military history and doctrine. Admiral Chen attended the opening ceremony at the Bovington Tank Museum. The old Mark IV tank still sat in its place of honor, but now it was surrounded by plaques in dozens of alien languages. Council officers came to study it, to touch its riveted hull, to understand what it represented. She watched as Commander Takesh approached the tank reverently, his mandibles clicking in a way that Chen had learned meant deep respect. He reached out and placed one of his 4 hands on the cold steel. I laughed at this, he said softly. I thought it was primitive. I did not understand that it was eternal. Now you do, Chen said. On the wall beside the tank, a new plaque had been installed. It read in English and 47 other languages. Technology advances. Tactics evolve. But some principles are eternal, adapt, endure, overcome. This machine changed the face of warfare not because it was perfect, but because it worked. Remember this lesson. Complexity is fragile. Simplicity endures, and determination conquers all. Below it, in slightly smaller letters, Welcome to Humanity Unbound. Chen stood beside the ancient tank, watching as officers from across the galaxy came to pay their respects. They had come to mock humanity's primitive weapons. They had stayed to learn humanity's eternal truths. Outside the museum, the sun was setting over England. Stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, the swarm was licking its wounds, trying to understand what had defeated it. Let it wonder, Chen thought. Let it analyze and adapt and prepare, because when it returned, humanity would be ready, with new weapons and old, with advanced technology and ancient principles, with everything that made humans what they were, stubborn, adaptable, and absolutely unwilling to quit. She smiled and walked out of the museum into the evening air. There was work to do. There always was. But for tonight, the galaxy was safe. And humanity had proven once and for all that being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. They laughed at Earth, until the human fleet showed up to claim the stars. Part 1, the big room was quiet. 12 aliens sat around a round table. Blue light from the stars shined through the glass roof. They all looked at a small blue planet. On the screen. Earth, said Zor, the leader with purple skin. Such a small planet with weak beings. The other aliens nodded. Some laughed. Earth was not important to them. Humans were too simple, too new to space travel. They still use old rockets, said Vex, who had 4 arms. They have not even left their own star system. They fight each other all the time, added Kral, the reptile-like alien. How can they ever join us in space if they cannot stop fighting? More laughter filled the room. The Galactic Union had been in space for thousands of years. They had built cities on hundreds of planets. They could travel faster than light. Humans were still trying to live on their own moon. In the corner of the room, a young alien named Tis watched quietly. He had studied Earth for years. He knew humans were smarter than they looked. Maybe we should not laugh, Tis said softly. Humans learn very fast. Be quiet, young one, Zor said. I have watched Earth for 50 years. They are still using the same old ships. They are still burning fuel to fly. They are no threat to us. Outside the big room, in the dark hallway, a small robot moved silently. It looked like a cleaning bot, but it was not. Inside, it had a camera and a radio. It was sending everything it saw and heard back to Earth. Deep under the Rocky Mountains on Earth, in a secret room, a woman watched the aliens on a big screen. Her name was Laura Beck. She wore a dark blue uniform with stars on the collar. Next to her stood a tall man named Craig Davis, wearing the same uniform. They still think we are weak, Laura said. She did not seem upset. She almost smiled. Good, Craig said. That is what we want them to think. How is the fleet coming along? Laura touched a screen on the wall. It showed a big ship being built inside a cave on Mars. The ship was black and sleek. Workers in spacesuits moved around it like ants. More ships could be seen deeper in the cave. The Unity is almost ready, Laura said. 10 more ships will be done next month. We have 20 more being built on the far side of the moon. Craig nodded. And the new drive? It works, Laura said. We can go faster than they can. Our ships can jump 5 light years in one go. Their ships need 3 jumps to go that far, all because they never thought to hide their messages, Craig said with a smile. We have been listening to them for 30 years, learning their science, copying their tech, making it better. Laura looked at the screen showing the aliens again. They think we still use old rockets because that is all we show them. They have no idea what we really have. When will we be ready? Craig asked. 6 months, Laura said. Then we can show them what humans can really do. On the alien space station, the meeting continued. The aliens were making plans to visit Earth's solar system. They wanted to mine the asteroids for metals. They did not plan to ask humans for permission. We will send 5 ships, Zor said. We will set up mining stations in what they call the asteroid belt. Humans will not even know we are there. What if they see us? Asked Kral. They cannot hurt us, Zor said. Their weapons are too weak. If they try to fight, we will destroy their ships easily. Tiz shook his head but said nothing. The other aliens did not care what he thought. Back on Earth, Laura and Craig left the secret room. They walked down a long hallway carved from solid rock. They entered a bigger room where 50 men and women worked at computers. A huge screen. On the wall showed the solar system. Small dots moved around it, showing the positions of ships and stations. The aliens will be here in 6 months, Laura told the room. They think they will find a weak planet with old tech and small ships. They will find something very different. A man stood up from his computer. The Unity will be ready in 4 months, the rest of the fleet 1 month after that. We have time. Laura nodded. Send the order to speed up work on all ships. I want weapons tested next week. Tell Mars Base to test the jump drive again tomorrow. Craig looked at the big screen. We have waited for this day for so long. Listening, learning, building in secret. They laughed at Earth, Laura said. Soon they will not be laughing. On Mars, in the secret cave, hundreds of workers moved around the huge ship called Unity. It was 1 kilometer long, black as night, with no windows. Inside, halls and rooms were filled with machines more advanced than anything seen on Earth. In the control room, a man named Ben Grant watched as engineers tested the ship's systems. Lights blinked on screens all around him. The ship was almost alive. How is the jump drive? Ben asked. Ready for testing, said a woman at a computer. All signs are good. Ben nodded. Tomorrow we will test it. If it works, we can start building them for all ships. On the wall was a picture of Earth seen from space. Under it were words in big letters. They will not laugh for long. 6 months later, 5 alien ships entered the solar system. They moved past Neptune, then Uranus, heading for the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. They did not try to hide. They did not think they needed to. On the lead alien ship, Zor stood on the bridge. He watched as Jupiter grew larger on the screen. Any sign that humans have seen us, he asked. No, sir, said the alien at the scanner. Their satellites are primitive. They cannot see this far out. Good, Zor said. Soon we will have all the metals we need from these asteroids. The humans will never know we were here. Behind him, the door opened. An alien ran in looking scared. Sir, we are getting strange readings from Mars. What readings? Zor asked. Energy readings. Very strong, like nothing we have seen before. Zor frowned. That cannot be right. Humans have only small bases on Mars. Check again. Suddenly, the ship shook. Alarm sounded. What is happening? Zor shouted. Something is coming out of Mars, the scanner alien yelled. Many ships, big ships. On the screen, they saw the side of a mountain on Mars open up. From inside came a huge black ship, then another and another, 30 ships in all, each as big as the alien ships. Impossible, Zor gasped. Humans do not have such ships. The human fleet moved quickly, surrounding the 5 alien ships. On the bridge of the Unity, Laura Beck sat in the captain's chair. She touched a button. Attention, alien vessels. This is Captain Laura Beck of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have entered Earth space without permission. You will stop now and explain why you are here. On his ship, Zor could not believe what he was hearing. Humans were not supposed to have ships like this. They were not supposed to have a fleet. They were supposed to be weak. They had all been wrong about Earth. Very wrong. And no one was laughing now. They laughed at Earth until the human fleet showed up to claim the stars. Part 2 Zor looked at the big screen with wide eyes. He could not believe what he saw. 30 huge black ships moved around his small fleet of 5 ships. The human ships were bigger than his. They looked more powerful. How is this possible? He asked. His voice shook. Humans are supposed to be simple. They use old rockets and basic space stations. The voice of Captain Laura Beck came through the speakers again. Alien vessels, you will stop now. We have weapons aimed at your ships. Tell us why you are here. Zor looked at his crew. They were all scared. This was not what they expected. Answer them, Zor said to his communications officer. The officer pressed some buttons. This is the Galactic Union exploration ship Star Seeker. We are here on a peaceful mission to study your solar system. On the Unity, Laura looked at Craig and smiled. They are lying, she said. We know they came to take metals from the asteroids without asking us. Should we tell them we know? Craig asked. Laura nodded and pressed a button. Galactic Union ship Starseeker, we have been listening to your communications for 30 years. We know you came to mine our asteroids. You did not plan to ask our permission. On his ship, Zor felt cold fear. How did the humans know this? How had they heard the Union's secret talks? Impossible, he said. Their technology is too simple to hear our messages. Sir, said the scanner officer, I am looking at the human ships now. They use the same drive systems we do, maybe even better ones. They have weapons like ours too. How did they get these things? Zor asked. No one had an answer. Laura's voice came again. Starseeker, you will follow our ship to Earth orbit. Your other ships will be escorted by our fleet. We wish to talk with you. Zor had no choice. His 5 ships were now trapped by the 30 Earth ships. He gave the order to follow. Send a message to the Union, he told his communications officer. Tell them what happened. Tell them the humans are not what we thought. The officer tried to send the message, but nothing happened. "Sir, I cannot send messages. Something is blocking our signals." In the control room of the Unity, Ben Grant watched the alien ships on his screen. A young woman sat at a computer next to him. "Good job, Amy," Ben said. "Your blocker is working. They cannot call home for help." Amy smiled. They used the same communication system for 50 years. It was easy to learn how to block it once we understood it. Ben nodded. That was their mistake. They never changed. They never improved. They thought they were perfect already. "And we keep changing," Amy said. "We keep getting better." The human and alien ships moved toward Earth. On his ship, Zor watched the blue planet get bigger on the screen. He had never seen Earth up close before. It was beautiful, with blue oceans and white clouds. "What will they do to us?" asked his second-in-command. "I don't know," Zor said. "But they could have destroyed our ships already. They didn't. Maybe they just want to talk." As they got closer to Earth, Zor could see hundreds of satellites around the planet. Some were small. Others were large space stations. There were ships moving between Earth and its moon. "Look at all this," the scanner officer said. "They have been building much more than we knew. Our reports were all wrong." The Unity led the alien ships into orbit around Earth. 5 human ships stayed with them. The rest of the fleet spread out to guard the planet. "Prepare a meeting room," Laura told Craig. "I will talk with their leader face to face." Craig looked worried. "Is that safe?" "We have studied them for years," Laura said. "They are not violent unless attacked, and they are curious. Their leader will want to know how we did all this." An hour later, Zor walked into a large room on the human space station. Laura Beck waited for him at a table. She wore her dark blue uniform with stars on the collar. 2 guards stood behind her. "Welcome to Earth, Leader Zor," Laura said. "Please sit down." Zor sat across from her. "How do you know my name? How do you know our language?" Laura smiled. "We have been studying you for a long time. We know all about the Galactic Union. We know about all 12 species in it. We know your history, your science, your plans." "But how?" Zor asked. 30 years ago, one of your ships passed through our solar system," Laura explained. "It did. Not stop. But it sent messages back to the Union. We heard those messages. We learned your language from them. We built better radio dishes to hear more." Zor remembered that mission. It was just a quick look at the solar system. They saw Earth, saw the simple humans, and moved on. They thought humans would not even notice them. "For 30 years, we listened to everything the Union said," Laura continued. "We learned your science. We copied your ships. We made them better. All while showing you only our old rockets and small stations." "But why hide?" Zor asked. "Why not just contact us?" "We heard how you talk about other species," Laura said. "We heard you laugh at us, call us simple. We heard your plans to take what you want from our solar system without asking. Why would we trust you?" Zor had no good answer. "Now we have a choice to make," Laura said. "We can be enemies or we can be friends." "What do you want?" Zor asked. "Respect," Laura said. "A place in the Union as equals, not as a simple species to be used. And safety for Earth." Zor thought about the 30 ships that had surprised his fleet, about how humans had learned so much while staying hidden, about how they could have destroyed his ships but didn't. "I think the Union will be very interested in talking with Earth now," he said. "You have shown you are not simple at all." Laura nodded. "Good. You will stay as our guest while we contact the Union. But this time we will talk as equals." Back on his ship, Zor's crew waited nervously. "Do you think the humans will hurt the leader?" asked the second-in-command. "No," said the scanner officer. "If they wanted to hurt us, they would have done it already. I think they just want to be heard." In space around Earth, the human fleet stayed on guard. Inside the Unity, Ben and Amy worked on their computers. "Do you think the Union will send more ships when they find out what happened?" Amy asked. Probably, Ben said. But we're ready if they do. We have 50 more ships almost done on the moon. And our new weapons worked perfectly today. Do you think there will be war? Amy asked. Ben shook his head. I hope not. We don't want to fight. We just want them to know they can't push us around. On the space station, Laura and Zor kept talking. Zor learned how humans had copied Union technology but made it better. How they had built their fleet in secret places on Mars and the moon. How they had prepared for this day for years. Your species learns very fast, Zor said. That's what makes us human, Laura said. We never stop learning, we never stop improving. Zor looked out the window at Earth. He had been wrong about humans. The whole Union had been wrong. No one would ever laugh at Earth again. They laughed at Earth until the human fleet showed up to claim the stars. Part 3, 3 days passed. The 5 alien ships stayed in Earth orbit, watched by the human fleet. On the space station, Laura and Zor worked on a message to send to the Galactic Union. We need to explain to the Union Council that Earth wants peace, Laura said. But we also need to show we are strong. Zor nodded. The Council respects strength. They will not listen to weak species. We are not weak, Laura said. Make sure they understand that. They finished the message and sent it using one of the alien ships. The message would take 2 days to reach the Union's main planet. While they waited, Laura took Zor on a tour. They went down to Earth in a small ship. Zor saw the cities, the oceans, the forests. He was amazed by how beautiful Earth was. Your world has so much life, Zor said. Most planets in the Union are much drier. That's why we protect it, Laura said. It's our only home. They visited a secret base under the Rocky Mountains. Deep inside the mountain, Zor saw huge rooms filled with computers and people working. This is where we first heard your messages, Laura explained. 30 years ago we built big radio dishes to listen to the stars. We heard your ship talking back to the Union. And you understood our language? Zor asked. Not at first, Laura said. It took 5 years just to learn the basics. Then we built better computers to help us. After that, we learned faster. Zor looked at the old radio equipment in one room. It was simple compared to Union technology, but the humans had used it well. Your people are very clever, he said. We had to be, Laura replied. We knew we were not alone in space anymore. We had to get ready. They went to another room where engineers worked on engine parts. The parts looked like Union technology but with changes. We copied your drives, Laura explained. But we made them better. Ours use less fuel and go faster. How? Zor asked. He had been an engineer before becoming a leader. You use metal tubes in your cooling systems, Laura said. We use carbon fibers. They are lighter and stronger. Zor was impressed. Humans had not just copied Union technology, they had improved it. On the 6th day, a message came back from the Union Council. Zor and Laura listened to it together in IDIS, the space station meeting room. The Council is surprised by what has happened, the message said. We did not know humans had advanced so quickly. We are sending 10 more ships to Earth to continue talks. They will arrive in 5 days. After the message ended, Laura looked at Zor. 10 more ships. Is that normal for peace talks? Zor looked worried. No. The Council is concerned. They may see Earth as a threat now. Laura pressed a button on the table. Craig's face appeared on a screen. The Union is sending 10 more ships, she told him. They will be here in 5 days. I'll alert the fleet, Craig said, and I'll tell Mars Base to launch the rest of our ships. Laura turned to Zor. We want peace, but we will be ready if the Union wants war. On Mars, the mountain opened again. 20 more black ships flew out into space. They joined the 30 ships already guarding Earth. In a control room on the moon, Ben and Amy watched the new ships arrive. 50 ships total now, Ben said. The Union is sending 10. They still don't understand, Amy said. They think they can scare us with numbers. They don't know about our new weapons yet, Ben said. Let's hope we don't need to show them. 5 days later, 10 Union ships arrived at the edge of the solar system. They were bigger than the first 5. They carried more weapons. On the lead Union ship, a High Council member named Kroll stood on the bridge. He wore gold robes that showed his rank. "Scan the Earth system," he ordered. "Show me these human ships." The scanner officer worked at his station. Then he looked up with surprise. "Sir, I see 50 human ships near Earth. They are as big as our ships. Some are even bigger." Kroll was shocked. The reports had said 30 ships, now there were 50. "Send a message to Earth," Kroll ordered. "Tell them I am coming to meet with their leaders." The Unity and 10 other human ships moved out to meet the Union fleet. The Black Earth ships formed a line in space. The Union ships stopped. A message came from Earth. "Council Member Kroll, this is Captain Laura Beck. You may bring one ship to Earth. The rest of your fleet must stay where it is." Kroll was not used to being told what to do. He was about to give an angry answer when his second-in-command spoke quietly to him. "Sir, their ships have weapons aimed at us, and their technology looks very advanced. Maybe we should do as they ask for now." Kroll didn't like it, but he agreed. His ship moved forward alone. The other 9 Union ships stayed behind. In orbit around Earth, Kroll transferred to the space station. Laura, Craig, and Zor met him in the big meeting room. "So you are the humans who have surprised the Union," Kroll said. He looked at Laura and Craig with interest. "We prefer to think of it as protecting our home," Laura said. "How did you advance so quickly?" Kroll asked. "Most species take thousands of years to reach this level," Craig answered. "We learn fast, and we work together when we need to." "The Union Council is concerned," Kroll said. "You built a fleet in secret. You have technology you should not have." "We built our fleet because we heard the Union talking about us," Laura said. "We heard. You laugh at humans. Call us simple. Plan to take things from our system without asking. So you spied on the Union," Kroll said angrily. "We listened to messages sent through our solar system," Laura corrected him. "You never tried to hide them. You never thought we could understand them." Kroll looked at Zor. "And what do you think? Now after seeing Earth up close?" "I think we were wrong about humans," Zor said. "They are not simple, they are not weak, and they want peace, but they are ready for war." Kroll looked out the window at Earth and the fleet of black ships guarding it. "The Union has never found a species that advanced so quickly before," he said. "It is concerning." "It doesn't have to be," Laura said. "We can be friends or enemies. It's the Union's choice." Kroll thought for a long moment. He had come expecting to find a minor species that needed to be controlled. Instead, he found a world with powerful ships and clever people who had surprised the whole Union. "I will return to the Council," he said finally. "I will tell them what I have seen here, but be warned. Some in the Council may not want Earth to have such power." "We don't want power over others," Laura said. "We just want to protect our home and be treated with respect." Kroll nodded and left the room. As he walked back to his ship, he wondered what the Council would decide about Earth, and he wondered what would happen if they made the wrong choice. They laughed at Earth until the human fleet showed up to claim the stars. Part 4-2. Weeks passed. Kroll and his 10 ships went back to the Union. They carried messages from Earth and videos showing the human fleet. Zor stayed on the space station as a guest. He wanted to learn more about humans. In the White House on Earth, Laura met with the world leaders. They sat around a big table in a room with tall windows. Outside, they could see the city of Washington. "The Union Council will meet in 3 days to talk about Earth," Laura told them. "Zor thinks they might be afraid of us now." "Should we be worried?" asked the leader of China. "We are ready if they decide to attack," Laura said. "But I don't think they will. The Union has not fought a real war in 1,000 years. They prefer to talk." "What do they want from us?" asked the leader of Russia. "They want to know how we got so advanced so quickly," Laura explained. "Most species in the Union take thousands of years to build ships like ours. We did it in 30 years. "Will they try to stop us from building more ships?" asked the leader of India. Laura shook her head. "They can't stop us now. We have the technology. We can build as many ships as we need." The Earth leaders talked for hours. In the end, they all agreed. Earth would join the Union, but only if they were treated as equals. They would not be a simple, weak species that others could look down on the space station. Zor worked with Craig in a big room with many screens. They watched videos from all over Earth. Zor was learning about human history. Your people fight so many wars, Zor said. More than any species in the Union. Yes, Craig agreed. We fight. But we also learn from our fights. Each war taught us something new, made us stronger. Is that why you advanced so fast? Zor asked. Craig thought about it. Partly. We compete a lot. Countries competing with each other. Companies competing. Even when we're not fighting, we're still trying to be better than others. The Union is not like that, Zor said. Most species work together. They move slowly. They don't rush. That's why we surprised you, Craig said. You all stopped pushing yourselves forward. You thought you were already perfect. In space, far from Earth, something new happened. A ship appeared suddenly. It was not a human ship or a Union ship. It was smaller than both, and shaped like a disc. It moved quickly toward Earth. On the Unity, a young officer named Dan saw the new ship on his screen. Captain, we have an unknown ship entering the system. It's not one of ours and not Union design. Captain Ben looked at the screen. Send a message to ask who they are, and tell Space Station Control about the visitor. The message went out. Minutes passed with no answer. The strange ship kept coming. It's not slowing down, Dan said, and it's not answering our calls. Move to block its path, Ben ordered. Power up weapons, but don't fire yet. The Unity and two other human ships moved to meet the disk ship. They formed a line, blocking the way to Earth. Finally, a message came from the disk ship. It was in a language no one had heard before. The computers tried to understand it, but could not. Send them pictures, Ben said. Show them we want them to stop and talk. The strange ship slowed down when it saw the human ships. It stopped at a safe distance. Then a new message came, this time in the Union language. We are from the free worlds. We heard that Earth surprised the Union. We want to talk. On the space station, Laura and Zor listened to the message. They looked at each other with surprise. The free worlds? Laura asked. Who are they? I have never heard of them, Zor said. They are not part of the Union. Laura told Captain Ben to let the disk ship come to the space station. 4 hours later, a small craft left the disk ship and docked with the station. Two beings walked into the meeting room. They looked almost like humans, but with purple skin and white hair. They wore simple gray clothes. I am Vela, said the taller one. This is Moro. We come from a planet called Lyra. We are part of the free worlds. Welcome to Earth, Laura said. I'm Captain Laura Beck. This is Zor from the Galactic Union. Vela looked at Zor with cold eyes. The Union has ignored the free worlds for too long. What are the free world? Laura asked. We are 8 planets that refuse to join the Union, Vela explained. We did not want to be controlled by their rules. They call us simple. They laugh at us like they laughed at you. Laura was surprised. There are others like us? Yes, Vela said. But we are not as strong as Earth. We could not build big fleets. We hide our true technology from the Union, but we cannot challenge them. How did you hear about what happened here? Zor asked. We listened to Union messages too, Moro said. When we heard about Earth's fleet, we had to come see for ourselves. What do you want from us? Laura asked. Help, Vela said. The Union treats the free worlds like children. They block us from trading with Union planets. They say we are not advanced enough to join the galactic community. Zor looked uncomfortable. The Union has rules about which species can join. It's for safety. It's for control, Vela said angrily. Laura thought carefully. Earth now had a choice. They could join the Union and leave the free worlds alone. Or they could help these other planets that had been treated the same way. We need to know more about the free worlds, she said. We can't promise help yet, but we can listen. For the next 2 days, Laura and Craig met with Vela and Moro. They learned about the 8 planets that made up the free worlds. Each had been visited by the Union. Each had been called simple and weak. Each had decided to hide their true progress, just as Earth had done. On the 3rd day, news came from the Union. The Council had made a decision about Earth. They want to send 20 ships to Earth, Zor told Laura. They say it's for a formal greeting, but that many ships is a show of force. Laura called a meeting with the Earth leaders. Vela and Morrow joined them too. The Union is testing us, Laura said. They want to see how we react to their ships. They want to know if we are afraid. What should we do? Asked the leader of Brazil. We show them our full strength, Laura said. All 50 of our ships, and we invite the free worlds to join us. Vela smiled for the first time. The Union needs to learn they cannot bully smaller worlds anymore. Earth has changed everything. The plan was set. In 1 week, the Union would send 20 ships to Earth. They would find not just 50 Earth ships waiting for them, but also ships from the free worlds. The time for hiding was over. The time for equality had begun. They laughed at Earth, until the human fleet showed up to claim the stars. Part 5. The day came when the Union ships would arrive. Earth was ready. In space above the blue planet, 50 black ships waited in a long line. Behind them floated 8 smaller ships from the free worlds. Each one looked different, showing the style of its home planet. On the Unity, Laura and Ben watched the screens. All ship captains were at their posts. Earth's leaders waited in a secure room deep under the White House. The Union ships will be here in 10 minutes, Ben said. Laura nodded. Are all weapons ready? Yes, but set to defend only, Ben answered. We won't fire first. On the space station, Zor stood with Craig, Vela, and Morrow. They watched the same view on big screens. The Union has never faced something like this, Zor said. They are used to being the strongest. Today that changes, Vela said. Her purple face looked serious. Suddenly the screen showed new objects. 20 large Union ships appeared at the edge of Earth's space. They moved slowly forward in a tight group. They're coming in battle formation, Craig said. They expect trouble. The Unity moved forward alone. Laura's voice went out to all ships, Union and Earth alike. Union Fleet, this is Captain Laura Beck of Earth. We welcome you to our system. Please note that we have our full fleet ready, along with ships from our allies, the free worlds. We seek peace, but we are prepared for any action you might take. On the lead Union ship, Grand Counselor Rax stood on the bridge. He was the head of the entire Union Council. He had come to see Earth for himself. What he saw now shocked him. They have more ships than our report said, he told his officers. And those other ships, who are they? His second-in-command looked at a screen. Sir, those appear to be ships from the outer systems, the planets we classified as simple. Impossible, Rax said, but he could see it was true. Somehow Earth had made friends with other worlds the Union had ignored. Rax sent a message back. Earth Fleet, this is Grand Counselor Rax. We come in peace to formally meet with your leaders. We request permission to approach. Laura answered quickly. You may bring 3 ships to Earth orbit. The rest must stay where they are. On his ship, Rax frowned. The Union was not used to taking orders from younger species, but he saw the strength of the Earth fleet. Now was not the time for pride. We accept your terms, he said. 3 Union ships moved forward. The rest stayed back. The Earth fleet parted to let them through. 2 hours later, Rax walked into the great meeting hall of the United Nations on Earth. The room was filled with leaders from every Earth nation. Vela and Morrow sat with them, representing the free worlds. Rax looked around the room. He had expected to meet simple beings. Instead, he found a united world with strong leaders and advanced technology. For 1,000 years, the Union has been the greatest power in known space, Rax began. We have set the rules for all worlds. We have decided which species could join us and which were not ready. Laura stood up. And you decided Earth was not ready. You laughed at us. You planned to take our resources without asking. That was a mistake, Rax admitted. We did not see your true strength. You did not look for it, Vela added. Just as you never looked for the truth about the free worlds. Rax looked at the purple-skinned visitors. Your worlds were also judged as simple. It seems we have made the same error many times. The Union is not perfect, Zor said, standing near Laura. We thought we knew everything. We were wrong. The meeting went on for hours. They talked about Earth joining the Union, about the free worlds getting more respect, about changing the old ways. At the end, Rax made an offer. Earth may join the Union as a full member, with all rights. The free worlds will also be invited to join as equals. We will form a new council with members from all worlds. Laura looked at the Earth leaders. They nodded one by one. We accept, Laura said. But we have one more condition. No world should ever be laughed at or called simple again. Every species develops in its own way, at its own speed. Agreed, Rax said. The Union has learned an important lesson from Earth. 1 month later, a great meeting took place on a neutral space station. Ships from 50 Union worlds, 8 free worlds, and Earth gathered around it. Inside, the new Galactic Council met for the first time. Laura sat at the round table as Earth's first council member. Next to her sat Vela, representing the free worlds. Zor and Rax were there too, with leaders from many other planets. This is a historic day, Rax said. For the first time, all known spacefaring worlds are united as equals. And it all started because the Union laughed at Earth, Zor added. That laughter woke a sleeping giant. Laura smiled. We never wanted to be giants. We just wanted respect. Back on Earth, people celebrated. The news was everywhere. Earth had joined the stars. Humans were now part of a larger community, and they had joined not as a weak species, but as equals. In his office under the Rocky Mountains, Craig watched the celebration on screens. Amy sat with him. Do you think it will last? Amy asked. Will the Union really treat everyone as equals? They will, Craig said, because they know now what happens when you underestimate others. On the Unity, Ben looked at a star map. It showed all the known worlds of the Union and beyond. There were hundreds of stars, thousands of planets, and now Earth had access to all of them. What's next for us? Dan asked, standing beside him. Exploration, Ben said. We've proven ourselves here. Now we go out there and show the galaxy what humans can really do. In space near Jupiter, the first mixed crew prepared for a long journey. Half were humans from Earth. The rest came from Union worlds and the free worlds. Their ship was the newest and fastest ever built, a joint project by all their worlds. Its name was painted in large letters on the side. Respect. As it moved away from the solar system, the crew looked back at Earth one last time. It was just a small blue dot now, easily missed if you weren't looking carefully. But no one would ever overlook it again. No one would ever laugh at Earth again, because now they knew what humans could do when challenged. The stars were waiting, and humanity was ready to claim them.